What is up, my ducks and drakes? Welcome to the Credit Lake, and today we'll be reading chapters 11 through 13 of First Liar by Uncertain Inadequate. Now, a reminder before we get into any of this, I am hosting the Gift of Fanfiction, which is an event where you write a holiday piece of standard-sized fanfiction, and you submit it, and we read it every day for the month of December. So if you'd like to participate within that, please see the video, which will be in the iCard now, or at some point in the video iCard, and in the end card. You'll also just find it generally on my channel, so please check out and try to participate in the Gift of Fanfiction. That'd be pretty cool. And with that, moving on to Chapter 11. 1 day remaining. Deceit looked around his room, lost in thought. He was awaiting Remus to come running into his room and confront him about what he's read in that book, but he still hadn't, and the day was coming to an end. He didn't care at all, did he? Remus has never cared. He's just like everyone else. In those poems, he clearly wanted to die, but Remus doesn't care. Deceit should have known Remus could never like him that way. Remus was the only thing left for him. Deceit knew what he had to do. Deceit sighed. Remus sighed. He didn't know what he could do. He needed to help Deceit before something happened, but he still didn't know what he could do. But he couldn't let Deceit continue suffering alone. God, what could he do? "Yo, Remus!" Roman's voice called out as he ran down the hall to him. Remus turned and smiled like a goofy, like how he always did. "Yeah? You know how you'd stayed over last night?" "Yeah? Want to stay over again?" Roman asked, bouncing on the spot. "Who are you? And what have you done with my brother?" Remus asked, jokingly and lightning laughter. I've been hanging out with Patton a lot lately," Roman laughed. "And the only person that's been done in the mindscape is..." Roman placed a gentle hand over his brother's mouth. "Don't. Virgil told me what you've said, so don't say what I think you will say." "Fine. I won't." Remus moved Roman's hand away from his mouth. "Thank Virgil." Roman facepalmed and Remus giggled mischievously. Remus stuck out his tongue and cheekily at Roman. "Anyways," Roman rolled his eyes and sighed, folding his arms. "Can you stay over again or not?" Remus thought for a moment. He could probably say no so he can go help Deceit. That was priority. "Well, I gotta have something to be doing." "What's important in your world that you saying no to a sleepover with us?" Roman asked, raising an eyebrow. Remus faltered for a moment. Then an idea came to mind. "Can Deceit come?" Roman laughed quietly. "That snake? Hell no. That's sweet of you, Remus, but he isn't a good person." Remus couldn't believe what he was hearing, and he stepped back in shock. Did the others really did hate Deceit, didn't they? Well, just answer the question, Remus. Can you come or not? Remus opened his mouth to respond, but Roman continued to talk. "And don't say you need to do something again, because Deceit nowhere near important compared to us." "What the hell is wrong with you?" He felt like screeching at him, but in all honesty, he was scared of Roman at times. "Well, I guess Great, I'll go tell the others." Roman grinned and patted his brother on the back before running down the hall. Remus sighed. He'd just have to talk to Deceit tomorrow. God, he hoped this wasn't a bad move for him to make. Chapter 12, 0 days remaining. All triggers will be in the description. Deceit sat on his bed, knees tucked up to his chest. He looked around the room as he stood up, knees shaking. This was it. He'd had enough. Deceit had to finish it. He had to end it. It had become too much for him. He stumbled towards his drawer. Knife lay inside of it. With a trembling hand, the male picked up it and went to place it down on his dresser. He summoned a piece of paper and a pen, placing it down on the table, and began to write. With the sharp object in hand, he stepped away and began to leave marks on his left arm. Within moments, his enemy's arms would be covered in red blood. His scales were burst open, his skin rippling apart. This sound was somewhat comforting. He knew the end was coming. He just had to stay committed. He placed the knife down for a moment and gently placed his black hat on top of the paper that had now fallen on the floor. He took his yellow gloves off and placed them, one on top of the other, beside his hat. As he continued to move, the object in cunning motion and resiliation hit him. He was dying. He was actually dying. The realization was a lot for him to take in, but he began to reconsider. Then he remembered all the hurt, all the pain. He blinked a few times and began to cut at the facial human skin. He was a mess by this point. Consciousness was barely existing as he struggled to stand. He wouldn't stop, however. With one last blow to the eye, the broken side fell to the floor. As his left hand fell to the ground, letting go of the knife, his vision became blurry. "I'm sorry," he mumbled as he took his final breath. Dear fellow sides, it appears my thoughts have gotten the best of me. I'm sorry I'm not still here with you guys. This was the way to heal. I've been trying for so long I've tried to be fine, to just be okay. Now it appears that nothing I tried seemed to work. I'm sorry for being a disgrace while alive, but I can't carry this anymore. Remus, I know you see my poems, and if you came to try to save me, you're too late. I guess it's time to go. It's time for our final and last goodbyes. Goodbye, everyone. Please take care of Thomas for me. Janice. Chapter 12/13. 0 days remaining. Alternate ending. Deceit sat in his bed, knees tucked up to his chest. He looked around the room as he stood up, knees shaking. This was it. He'd had enough. Deceit had to finish it. He had to end it. It had became too much for him. He stumbled towards his drawer. A knife lay inside of it. With a trembling hand, the male picked it up and went to place it down on the dresser. He summoned a piece of paper and a pen, placing it down on the table as he began to write. With the sharp object in hand, he stepped away and began to leave marks on his left arm. Within moments, his enemy's arm was covered in red blood. His scales would burst open, his skin ripping apart. The sound of somewhat comforting. He knew the end was coming. He just had to stay committed. As he made a few deep cuts on the other arm, he heard a knock at the door. A D? Accompanying it. He couldn't register whose voice it was. The only thoughts going through his mind was knife, knife, knife. Deceit continued to cut, and he whimpered quietly, closing his eyes tightly as he stumbled backwards and fell to the floor, inflicting more pain upon himself as his vision blurred from tears. Whoever was outside must have heard the whimper and fall, because moments later a green and black blur dashed into the room and froze in the middle of the room in shock. Deceit looked up at whoever it was, and weakly more tears fell from his eyes. The color combination registered in his head, and he looked down. Remus might care, to at least some extent. Remus crouched down beside him and took the knife away from Deceit. He threw it to the other side of the room and hugged Deceit tightly, careful not to irritate the wounds. Why? He asked quietly. Well, Deceit tried to respond. No. Why wasn't I here sooner? Remus pulled away from the hug, Deceit, and stood quietly, dashing out of the room. He returned barely any time later with medical stuff to a broken side, trying to make the cuts on his arms worse. No, please, Dee, stop. Remus mumbled, moving Deceit's hands from his arms and taking one arm gently. He cleansed the wounds and began to bandage his arm carefully, unable to prevent tears from falling from his eyes. Deceit whimpered and winced quietly, biting his lip. He'd been such an idiot. Remus took Deceit's other arm and repeated the same actions as he's done to the other. Deceit continued to whimper quietly, and he closed his eyes tightly. After he bandaged up Deceit's arms, Remus hugged him again. This hug was tighter, as if he let go, Deceit would die. Why are you helping me? Deceit asked quietly and weakly, burying his face in Remus's shoulder. Why wouldn't I? Because no one's supposed to care about me, Deceit mumbled. Remus shook his head almost instantly. That's not the case. More tears fell from his eyes. Who does care? Me, Remus mumbled quietly, tensely. How? And how do I know you aren't lying? Deceit asked quietly. This wasn't how he'd ever imagined it happening, but then again, never imagined it happening anyways. Deceit. Remus pulled away from the hug, but left one hand on Deceit's shoulder, wiping both of the tears with his other hand. She looked at him with a pair of fragile, broken eyes. Remus tried a way to word his sentence, but failed miserably. Oh, fuck it. I hope this justifies what I'm trying to say. Remus placed his hand on Deceit's shoulder once again and smashed his lips gently upon Deceit's. Deceit froze, but quickly melted, kissing him back softly. The world around him slowly melted away, as time seemed to slow down. Remus actually loved him back. At the realization of that, Deceit's mood quickly lifted. Maybe things would finally start to get better from here on out. Yeehaw, yeehaw. I hope you guys enjoyed that. Remember, the gift of fanfiction. Please do that. There are links in the description below to all of my things, like my second channel, my Etsy shop, and our Crawdad Lake Discord, where you could chat with other crawdads. It's pretty cool. If you would like to, please subscribe. Road to 1,000. And just thank you so much for listening. Like always, do your best.